Hello, everyone. My name is Chip Boaz, and I want to welcome you to episode number 5 of the Audio Journal, the place where you get to know the face behind the bass. It's been a great week. I've gotten to do a lot of cool music this week. I hope you got a chance to check out my latest performance video where I'm playing one of my favorite jazz standards, the great tune All of Me. I'm walking on my upright and I get to do some melody and solo work on my electric. I had tons of fun putting that together, so please check it out on YouTube or any of the socials, wherever you prefer. It'll be there. I also sent out the second free exclusive MP3 to members of the Boaz Brigade. Now remember, I'm doing this every week. You're going to get a free exclusive MP3 every week in your inbox. That's pretty cool. I've been making a lot of music and I'm ready to share it with the world. And I'm just going to keep on doing it. So if you want to get that free MP3, please sign up in the comments below and I will be sending you those on a weekly basis. This past week was kind of fun because I shared a demo from a kind of album I had in works in progress for a long time, and that project just fell by the wayside. But I found those demos and I was thinking, oh, that sounds pretty good. So I decided to share it and get some feedback as to maybe I should return to that or not. I mean, I kind of have my thoughts, but there's no opinion I value more than folks out there in the Boaz Brigade. So I sent that out and I got some really good feedback in reply on that. And I think I might be pursuing that a little bit more. So it's kind of fun. You get the MP3s, but you also get to be part of the whole process of my music making process. So please join up and I would love to connect with you that way. Speaking of connections, I had a great live stream last Sunday. I played All of Me. I played some great Latin jazz. I played some funky stuff. It was super fun and lots of people there. I'm going to be doing the next one this Saturday at 1:30, and you know, I'm thinking of this now as the 2020 Facebook Live concert series. So this will be week number 5 in my concert series, and I'm really enjoying it because it really gives me the opportunity to put together a lot of repertoire that I can share with you all the time out there. And after I've done these for a long time, I might just start doing them weekly, but then popping up here and there just out of the blue for fun. They're a real blast to do, and it's so fun when people get on there and comment and I get to interact with people. Tons of fun. So stop by Facebook this Saturday at 1:30 and hang out with me a little bit. I'll be playing some music and chatting with all of you, so please do. This week's topic is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and it's something, honestly, I've struggled with in my music career. And that is the idea of just being happy with where you're at right now. It's really easy for goal-oriented people like myself to really be thinking about what's the next thing and really be looking ahead into the future and seeing what am I going to do next and how can I reach that next pinnacle right there. And there's a piece of that that's really good and can be a really good way to move yourself forward, whether you're talking about through music or anything in life. That idea of setting goals and striving to meet them, I think actually is a really positive thing. But what happens, I think, when we do that is we don't just look to those next steps in the future, but we also look ahead and we see the people who have already made those steps and found whatever sort of success that is. Or even the people that are further ahead of us in reaching those goals. And what starts happening when we see those people is the comparison comparisons start to happen. And that's where the danger lies when we start when we stop appreciating the moment that we are at that point in time, and comparing ourselves and thinking about, well, I wish I was more of this. And I think we really lose something when we do that. I know that is almost a disease in music. And I think a lot of that comes from the way that we're trained to master our musicianship. I think that we're trained to look up to these role models, musicians who have something that we really value, that we want to bring into our own musicianships. And again, the start of that's super positive. Positive role models, great things to have. I know there have been countless composers, bassists, people that I have really admired, looked up to, and modeled my own musicianship after. And that has really defined who I have become as a musician. I think the danger lies when we start looking at those people and comparing ourselves to them. Super easy to do as a musician, and it's not a fair comparison, because when you're looking at someone that you are admiring and you're looking at them as like that ideal musician, how are you supposed to be that person anyways? It's what you're aspiring to. There's no need to compare yourselves to them. And I know that I have done that so many times in my kind of growth as a musician. And I think every time it slowed me down, it held me back, and it made me less of a musician. And that's unfortunate. You know, I probably could have reached further faster if I had not made those comparisons, because it's like a disease. Once you start making those comparisons to your role models, it translates. You go out and you see someone live, and all that's going through your head as you're watching them is that comparison between them on stage and your musicianship. Again, start positive things, right? You look and you see someone live, you go, okay, I really like that they're doing this. I like the way they play this bass line. I would like to do that. Right? And that's inspiration. That's good. But then when that turns into, well, they do this better than me, or I do this better than them, that's when things start to get dangerous, and you lose sight of where you're currently at in your musicianship. And then it can get really toxic, you know, because that can even translate to you meet a new musician and right away you start comparing yourself to them. And it kind of gets in the way of building community. You know, it becomes very antagonistic, and that's not a way to build community. And there's nothing more important than community and music. So what I have really worked on doing over the past several years is really just looking at where I am in the present moment in my musicality and appreciating the strengths that brings, the things that bring me joy in that moment, and the things that I can bring into the world in that moment that could potentially give other people joy. And when you start just looking at yourself honestly, and not necessarily in a critical way, but in an appreciative way, you really start to enjoy music so much more. And once, you know, it's good, even though when you look at yourself to go, I really wish this was better, but look at it in a way of just putting one foot in front of the other. You know, one thing I tell my students almost on the daily is if we make one move forward every day, then we're going to reach our musical goals. And I like to bring that into the practice room with myself as well. I always want to keep evolving. I always want to keep growing, but I bring some pretty cool things into the world, so I'm going to just keep putting one foot in front of the other and growing into the musician that I'll be 5 years from now while I'm enjoying the musician that I am now. It's tough stuff to do, folks. It sounds pretty simple when you just say it, but actually living it and thinking it can be a whole mental process right there. I'd love your thoughts on that. Do you appreciate where you are in the musical moment? And how do you kind of capture that and start to reflect on yourself in that way? Or do you? Do you disagree with me? Maybe you do. I don't know. But I would love to hear your thoughts on that. So send me a message to chip@chipboazmusic.com. You can reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or any of the places, and let me know what you think about that idea, because it's stuff that we don't often talk about as musicians, but I think that it's very important stuff to talk about. Speaking of things to talk about, it's time for Question of the Week. And it has been a fun week in that regard. Now, last week, in episode number 4, I was asking the question of, if you could have one superpower, what would it be? And I gave my response last week. I put that question out into the world, and I got some very cool responses. So I want to share with you some of the thoughts from the think tank in the Boaz Brigade. Here we go. So Ollie White is a man after my own heart. He said, the Force, easy choice. I'm down, young Padawan. I would love to be a Jedi Master and use that. I'm not sure if it is considered a superpower. I could get all deep Star Wars mythology on all of you right now, but I'll spare you that. And I'm just going to say that this is the superpower you're looking for. And we're going to call it one. Thanks, Ollie. I would love to have the Force as well. My good friend Nate Lopez said Wolverine powers, regenerate and heal. That's what I said as well last week, Nate. We're thinking right along the same wavelengths right there. If you've never heard Nate play guitar, on a side note, you've got to do it. Nate plays 8-string guitar, lays down funky bass stuff while he's playing chords, playing melodies, soloing. It's freaking amazing. So check it out. You can find him all over Facebook, Instagram, and all of them there places too. Oliver Helms says probably Force powers, as they can be useful. Again, right there with you. But if Star Wars is off the shelf, then I would have to go with invisibility, as it is the most practical and only breaks the laws of physics slightly. Oh, pretty deep, thinking about the science behind it right there. I just like to make believe. I don't know, but invisibility would be cool. And my good friend Cesar Landaeta says, my superpower would be super speed. With super speed, I can avoid bullets, move from one place to another in milliseconds, almost being invisible, as well as many other things that can make me invulnerable. Looking at the big picture there, that would be super cool, right? I don't know if you watch The Flash out there, but all of the super speed stuff, the Speed Force, it really gets me thinking. And I think that would be a fun superpower to have. So, thank you. And I always love hearing from folks in the Boaz Brigade about the question of the week. It's super fun, and it's a way for us to get to know each other. So keep those responses coming. This week, we have a fun question that I would love to hear from tons of you about. This week's question of the week is, if you were eating your last meal, what would it be? Now, I know, we start, it's a little morbid, the whole last meal stuff, but it really makes you think, right? This isn't just your favorite food. This has got to be your favorite of your favorite foods right there. Because if it's the last taste you're ever going to have, you really want that to be a good one. I'm kind of a foodie, so this one really strikes me really close, but I do have to say, with all my different food adventures, I would go right back to the basics and say what I would really love. My last meal would be a straight up super burrito. Boy, especially if somebody went and got me a super burrito from El Roy's in Petaluma, I would be all over that. It's the best. If you're ever in Petaluma, folks, go to El Roy's. It is just amazing. All the food, but the super burrito is the bomb. And the thing where I get thinking, though, is I like the whole plate, too, though. So maybe I'd like rice and beans with tamales, I think would be really good. Maybe that would be it. Or fajitas would be tons of fun. I love the mixing and the maxing and the putting the chicken and the grilled vegetables and stuff in the little tamales or the little tortillas. Oh, I love it when food is fun. So any one of those, no, give me the super burrito. It's such a hard choice. I'm going to say super burrito right there is what I would love. Although I've got some second and third choices right there as my last meal. So I want to hear from you. If you have some thoughts, what would your last meal be? Go ahead and send them to me, chip@chipboazmusic.com, or catch me on any of the socials and let me know, and I'll share it next week on Question of the Week. My inspiring person of the week is someone, it's kind of funny because I was talking about role models in the main topic when I was talking about appreciating your musical self in the moment, is someone who I think really embodies that, but someone who I was really thinking about a lot this week, and that is the great pianist, composer, band leader, Chick Corea, who is one of my personal heroes, has been for so many years. I don't think a day goes by when I don't listen to something from Chick's vast repertoire. I was thinking about Chick this week because I saw him win the Grammy Award for Best Latin Jazz Album. And that was super special to me because one of the things that I have always appreciated about Chick's music, and this really goes right back to my first exposure to Chick Corea, which was the Light as a Feather album, when one of Chick's early Return to Forever albums, that was very strongly influenced by Brazilian music. And I've always thought that Chick had this, real connection to Latin rhythms, whether we're talking about the music of Brazil or Spain or Cuba. In his music, I could hear those elements come through, but it was never like this very traditional mix. It was always this flavor underneath the very big personality of Chick Corea. And I always loved it, still love it to this day. But I always wondered what Chick would sound like in a more traditional context. And he released an album last year called My Spanish Heart, where he dove right in there, doing some really amazing music that combined rhythms from Cuba. It combined Spanish flamenco music. Really beautiful stuff. A really great album. It was really meaningful to me because it had a bass player on it, Carlitos del Puerto, who is the son of one of my bass idols, Carlos del Puerto, who was the original bass player for the great Cuban band Irakere. So Carlitos was on the album. That brought it home for me. It also had the great Ruben Blades singing vocals on a couple of the tracks. And just beautiful stuff, which found Chick really dipping in to that Latin jazz well. So I was really inspired to see him honored in that way through the Grammys. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a big fan of the Grammy Awards, and I don't know how much those type of awards really mean to music at the end of the day, but it was really meaningful to me to see Chick honored like that, as I think he should be. And it also just made me think. I'm going to go on a tangent here for a minute, but it really just made me think about how awesome it is that Chick Corea is 75, 76, something like that. And he's still really exploring new territories with his music. He's still, pushing himself to try new things and to experiment. And that's something that I really respect. And I hope, in 30-something years from now, I'm doing the same thing. So thank you, Chick, for decades of inspiration that will continue on for me for the rest of my life and have played a big part in my musical development. Inspiring Person of the Week, the great Chick Corea. Well, folks, I think that's going to wrap it up for this week in the audio journal. If you have ideas about maybe potential topics to talk about, you want to throw in a nomination for Inspiring Person, you want to answer the question of the week, or you just want to say hi, send me a line. Reach out to chip@chipboazmusic.com. Reach out to me on the socials, and let's connect and bring some cool new stuff into the audio journal. I do encourage you to join the Boaz Brigade by signing up for my email list. You can find the link in the comments below. Remember, every week I'm sending you a free exclusive MP3 download of my music and lots of other cool stuff that lets you get participated in the music creation process. So until then, folks, thanks for hanging out with me again. I look forward to talking to you next week in episode number 6. See you then.